My bro brought me this. I think it's dope, and I thought I'd share it with you guys. We all know who that is. What do you mean funny? Funny how? Right? That's good shit. I'm gonna set him right here, back where he was at. All right, everybody, what's up? This is Raw and Uncut, back with episode 6. For those that have been watching the other 5 episodes and extra parts that I've dropped already, I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much for paying attention, and thank you so much for listening and watching. Appreciate you. And today we're going to keep rolling, and we're going to keep going. And today we're going to talk about, learning how to make money. You know what I'm saying? Like learning how to actually start earning money. Like how I first started the idea of making my own money. As a kid, uh, you know, my dad was a truck driver. On the weekends, we were always at my grandpa's. They were cutting steel, dropping an engine in a vehicle. They were like Chevy folks. We were Chevy men, just say it like that. My grandpa was a Chevy man. My dad was a Chevy man. I'm a Chevy man when it comes to old schools. When it comes to new vehicles, I don't like any of them. I don't trust them. If you're not going to buy a vehicle, to keep around for longevity, then I'd just rather not buy shit. But anyways, that's another story. We'll talk about vehicles at another time. But back to this, so I always saw ways that my dad made money, but being a kid, really never really made my own money um, until I was probably I was 13 years old, and we moved to the Fresno and Olive area in Fresno, California. Of course, we always lived in Fresno. Uh, Lived to other places briefly, but always came back and stayed in Fresno originally and forever. In terms of all the stories I'm talking about, always located probably there. So I was probably about 13. We moved from Chestnut and Kings Canyon area, southeast, deep east, to Fresno and Olive on Tyler Street. And this was 89, 1988, 1989. And, I started middle school, and I wanted to make some money, and I didn't know how to make some money. I wanted better clothes. Like we had cheap clothes, you know what I mean? We had old clothes. We really didn't have much. And so now I'm 13 years old, and I'm seeing that there's this guy that's throwing the paper in the neighborhood. Once we've already been in like a month or two, I see this guy that's throwing the paper in the neighborhood. He's coming in a big old Fresno B truck, and he's dropping it off, down the street somewhere. And then I forgot exactly how it happened, but I think my mom she was a subscriber to the Fresno B, and when the guy came to collect, his name was TJ. When he came to collect for the B, this is the guy that was running that route, but I found out that he was running the route because he had no one else to do it. No one wanted to do it. There were no kids that were willing to do it. They pay like $130 something, $140 something a month average. You got paid every 30 days, stuff like that. So it was just, a little kid making money. So I took it and I threw the paper for a few months. My brothers would help me. My mom would help me. I did that. I met a lot of different older folks in the neighborhood, from selling them the beer. They were already subscribers, and I would go collect from them. And back in those days, they would give you cash, they would give you checks, money orders. Some people didn't have the money. Yeah, so they would give this kid, they gave me all this money. I have to hold it in the envelope and turn it in to TJ at the end of every week. But anyways, I did that for a few months, and I made I made my own money. I got a taste of what it was like to make my own money. And then I bought me like some shoes. My first pair of shoes that I bought me was some Fila's, white with green and black, and they had the strap over the cross. They were like high top. I bought them at Big Five. I just liked the Fila was my thing. It was the style. It was the old school style. Easy E wore it. The Doc wore it. I seen Above the Law with Fila on. It was a player type of apparel. It was like player shit that you saw on players and stuff like that, people in the street. And I always liked those shoes, so I bought them. And then about a year, maybe 2 years later, 15 going on 16. Uh, we were out there staying in another motel, and was out there where I was telling the story, but this is the beginning of the story that I never told. So there's a beginning part that I never added to that story. And that's when, uh, if you remember the story where I was telling you about Juan and Freddie, and Juan had split to the border and he got arrested at the border. Um, got arrested at the border. They took him back to Big Spring, Texas, federal prison immediately. Had to serve, I think, another 5 years, right? So at that point, at that moment, before that, he had when he was running around out when he first got out from this other get down. Before then, he was in the county, Fresno County, for like 6 months. And during those 6 months, he had left his El Camino, 76 at the time. He had left his El Camino with my mom and my sister at the motel. We had the keys to it. So my mom, like every year, my mom and my uncles and aunts on my mom's side, they were field workers. They were originally from Texas, came out in the 60s to Fresno to find work in California, different camps along the valley right there. They met a lot of people from Texas, all came together, stuff like that, met people here from Texas. So they were field workers. And my mom's side of the family was all field workers. That's what they did. They worked hard in the fields and agriculture and stuff. So my mom and my uncle were still connected to Mr. Jerry Seto, who owned a bunch of grape vineyards out there, like in Cedar Manning area, somewhere, Cam, somewhere out there, way in the hell out there. I remember. But he asked my mom one year when I was about 16 over there, and he asked my mom, and my mom wanted to go work in the fields, uh, you know, cutting laying trays of grapes to dry up for raisins. And then when they're done with that, then you roll them. And then when they're done rolling and they got them set, then you pick them up and then harvest them the whole get down. But it's by phases, and it's all you get paid. You know what I mean? But we're getting paid like 10 cents a tray back then. 15 cents a tray wasn't even heard of. It was like 10 or 12 cents a tray. You know what I'm saying? And so all of us, me, my mom, my brothers, my sisters, we started cramming up in the El Camino, all of us, 7 deep, me driving at 15 years old from Weber and Belmont all the way out there to Manning and Cedar area in the boondocks, in the boonies out there in the vineyards. And we started doing that until the field was done. We started out there where my mom took us out there to work so we could get extra money. At this point, it wasn't really extra money for clothes for school because I was already going to court school. My one brother was in a group home, and all she really had to worry about was Hector and Jessica and Shane and Gina, which was still a lot. But she didn't have to worry about me in terms of like buying stuff because I'm buying my own shit now. Um, we started working in the fields just for extra money, for like groceries and stuff like that. So this is right before Juan came back and then established himself and all that. So there was a lot that I left out in that story because I was just skimming through for the main part of the main subject of the content that I was trying to get out. But there's a lot of intricate pieces in between their stories of what happened after this and what happened after that. And during this happened. So there's a lot of that. So I'm going to be jumping back into stuff, like I said. Now, so we did that, man. I remember cramming up early in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, going out there the summer days, man. By the time it's 9, 10 o'clock, it's already like 100 degrees, 98, 90, 95, 98, 2 o'clock, 1, 2 o'clock comes around when you're getting ready to get the hell out of there. And it's the hottest part of the day. It's 108, it's 107, it's 109, it's 106. You've been working in the dirt all day, the sun beaming on you. I would be out there feeling like a straight slave. I used to tell my mom, I wonder if this is how slave folks feel. And she's like, I don't know, probably, but this is kind of like it's slave work. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we did. But we did it for like 3 years from when I was like 15 to like 16 or 17. We did that periodically through the seasons. We'd be out there with my Uncle Ruben. And he remembers that we'd be out there with him working. So we learned how to earn honest money that way. I was a paper boy when I was 13, and we started working in the fields when I was a little bit older than that. And periodically through the years, even in my 20s, we went back to the fields with my mom here and there to help. And it became something where we just helped my uncle out with the field because my uncle Jerry Sethel was old now, and there was no one else responsible for the field but my uncle. So it became a thing where we just helped him out. I mean, I remember I was already dealing dope, and I was in my early 20s, and drove my mom out there and one of my brothers, and we went out there to help my uncle finish the field because he had like so many rows left, and a bunch of people didn't show up to work, so he needed help. So we went out there for like 3 or 4 days, and we helped finish in the field. We did that a few times, and it was nothing. People used to laugh that didn't know. They'd be like, "Oh, you got," they would talk about Mexican. I hate when people would talk about, excuse my language, but they would talk about, I'll just say setbacks, and they would call them setbacks. But you know what I'm saying? And they would use that word, and I hated it. It just was so disrespectful, and people didn't know when they met me that I was very tied into people from Mexico. They didn't know that. I mean, I was tied into multiple different people from different parts of Mexico, from all the way to the northern parts, all the way down to the southern tip in Chiapas and Tecate and all that. I mean, Michoacan and Sinaloa, there's a lot of folks from there. There's a lot of folks from Veracruz, from Guanajuato, Nayarit, Colima, you know what I mean, Jalisco. It goes on and on and on and on. Chihuahua, Baja California, you know what I mean, San Luis, Rio Potosi, the little parks, the little ranches too, and all that. Like, I know people from everywhere. So people, when they met me and see me and they see my name, they thought I was a white dude. I had freckles, I had colored eyes. They just thought I was a white dude until I started talking. And then they seen I had a little bit of an accent. And then they heard me speak Spanish, and they'd be like, wait a minute, what is this dude? What is he? You know what I mean? So, anyways, um, I learned how to make an honest living. My mom and my dad showed us from a very young age. That's why I became a paper boy for a few months, made some money like that. Then when we went to the field, made some money. Then I started doing my own thing once I got out of the county jail in 1997. um, I determined I was going to be smart, that if I was going to be on the other side of the law and not the right side of the law, that I was going to be making money and my own money and not taking risks out there every night, putting myself on blast out in the open, doing dumbass crime for nothing and getting locked up and going to jail for it. That I said, all right, you know what? I should just go back to selling dope like I was doing a couple of years ago. Because there was a period there, like a year and a half, where I didn't sell anything. I was in trouble with the law, and I had a lot of things going on. Really wasn't. I was kind of lost. I was drinking a lot. I was doing a lot of coke. I was doing a lot of things back then as a youngster. Um, and it didn't stop. It happened periodically through my life. I mean, up until about 13, 14 years ago, a lot of that stuff, I mean, everything is history. But learning how to make an honest dollar and learning the value of a dollar, and coming from hardworking parents. My mom was a hardworking woman. My dad, my grandpa, my grandparents on both sides of the family, all hardworking. My uncles, my aunts on my mom's side, hardworking people. My uncles, my aunts on my dad's side, hardworking people. There's a lot of things they could say about my family, right? On both sides, people could say a lot of things, whatever they want. But one thing they can never say is that either side of my family is lazy, because I come from a hard working family. So when I started to deal drugs, it felt weird to me. I felt like I was doing something so wrong. Of course, I'm breaking the law, I'm committing a crime, whatever. But at the same time, it felt morally wrong. And it felt like that all the time. Where I had been dealing drugs for years, and I had customers that were, always buying. I knew for years that we had these kind of people, like they could come to the house and I'm barbecuing and drinking. They can have a beer and smoke a joint, get their shit, and then hang out and go home. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of people that I dealt with. I didn't deal with just straight off the street people. I knew people for years, like real clientele that was there. But the point of it is that making honest money and then making dishonest money, the money that you make when you're committing crimes and you're on the wrong side of the law and you're not making that money with good energy and good faith, the faster you make that money, the faster it goes. And anything you buy with that money, it doesn't last. It doesn't last. It's never going to be there. In the end, I bought so many cars, trucks, so many things, so much jewelry, all these things I bought when I was slanging dope all those years. None of that shit is here. I've only got a couple of little pieces still left from that time. One of them being a gold Raiders watch that I've had, that I bought as a gift to myself when I signed to the Row back in 2003. And I got that little few thousands dollars of upfront advance. Once I signed my name on the dotted line, I signed 6 years, 6 albums. and I got some nice change to sign. And it's one of those things where you know how to make money the good way, you know how to make money the bad way, you know how to hustle. You no matter what happens. The whole point of it is no matter what happens, no matter what side of the court I'm on, I'm always going to be playing ball. You know what I'm saying? No matter if I'm on that side of the court, if I'm on this side of the court, no matter what side of the court I'm at and I'm in, or what side of the field, I'm always going to be playing ball. And you always have to be playing ball. You always got to have a certain way to get it. You know what I'm saying? And once I stopped dealing drugs about 13, 14 years ago, you know, I it was not the end of the world. Like I knew what to do. I was around trucks my whole life. Come from a family of truck drivers. My dad drove truck for 40 some 45 years, something like that. You know what I mean? A real truck driver. So I was around trucks. I just never wanted to be a truck driver because I didn't want to live that life of always being on the road. Like my dad was always gone. And then when he was around, it was always, us, it was always a bad situation. Even when we had good days, they always ended in a fucked up way. And it sucked because you could never cherish the good times because they were there, but then they were gone so fucking quick. Just as fast as they got there, they were gone. So learning how to make money uh, the illegal way, it was cool and I was good at it for a long time. And I thank God that I never got caught up with any. I never had to rat nobody out. There ain't nobody out there that can ever tell you, yeah, Rob D got caught with some dope and then he went and told on this person and that person. They ain't nobody can ever tell you that. There ain't no paperwork out there, none of that shit. And that's the thing. It's a rarity these days. And people are like, how did you do that? You gotta, when you're connected to the right people and it's family and you know people, that's how it works. That's how it works. It's a mutual, it's respect. When you put so much time in the game and you've played the game the right way, I thank God when I got out of the game because I got out at the time when it was fucked. It was done. The old school way of doing things was gone. There was these dudes coming out of prison and all they wanted to do was, oh, somebody's balling out here. I'm gonna take their shit. There's a lot of homies getting robbed, killed, all that shit all that shit in that time. And from like 2010 to about 2013, 14, there was a time period where there was a lot of homies getting robbed, set up, killed, all that shit. A lot of dealers, a lot of people that have been in the game for a little bit. Some of them getting busted too because they just got sloppy, started getting high and started doing shit real sloppy. So, my thing is that I learned that no matter what I put my mind to, I'm always going to be good at it. And I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound vain. I don't mean to sound cocky, or it's not to sound anything like that. It's just to tell you that it's the truth for everybody. That whatever you believe in, whatever you set your mind to, you can pull it off. When I was sitting in jail in 1996, I used to write raps. There was a homeboy from Chicago there, Malcolm Adams, four corner hustlers. Malcolm Adams was a baller, man. This dude would win money up in there, you know what I mean, playing ball or whatever. But anyways, he'd see me on my bunk and I'd be writing raps. He'd be like, what are you writing, man? And I start telling him. So me and him start writing stuff together. So the whole time I was in jail, I was telling motherfuckers, man, when I get out, I'm gonna record this music, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. People say a lot of shit when they're locked up, and everybody's like, yeah, whatever, dog, whatever. This is 1996, going into 97. I heard when Machiavelli dropped, when Machiavelli dropped, I heard it for the first time over the phone on a collect call. One of the homegirls that we would chop it up with from the hood, she's playing that shit. Another homeboy, we call him collect, they're playing that shit. Oh, what? Look, Tupac just dropped this. And it's just iconic that that's a moment in my life when people are like, oh, well, Pac got killed, where you at? I was in jail. I was in fucking jail doing my little time. But yeah, man, the thing about drug dealing is, they give drug programs and stuff to the drug addicts, and they should. There's programs, there's outreach, there's all kinds of stuff to help them get off drugs and stay off drugs. But there's really no programs for drug dealers. I'd like to start a program for drug dealers because it's equally addicting to us. The way the drug is addicting to the dope fiend and the drug addict, the money and the lifestyle is addicting to the drug dealer. and it's both a disease. It becomes something when you eat, sleep, and shit, and breathe the dope game or any kind of whatever you're involved in. When you live, breathe, eat, shit, eat, sleep, and shit, that shit. When you're going to sleep, you're making money. You wake up, you're making money, or whatever you're doing. You know what I'm saying? That's the way it should be. Yeah, that's the way that it should be. If you're gonna do something, you should be living, eating, breathing, sleeping, eating, all that shit. You should be doing it all. If you're gonna be a fucking rapper in the game, you should be doing it at 150%. If you're gonna be a mechanic, you should do it at 150%. You're gonna be a truck driver. You're gonna be a hoe, a slut, a pimp. If you're gonna be a lawyer, if you're gonna be a doctor, whatever the hell you want to choose to be, as long as you put your mind to it, you will accomplish it. And that's something that I learned, knowing that I could accomplish it the straight way, or if I needed to, I can go back and accomplish it this way. But see, the game changed, and I'm glad that I got out when I did because it changed. I seen it changing, and there was a change in my life where I was blessed with a son. And once I was blessed with a son, I knew I was done. It was a sign. Everything was changing. Everything was changing. The game was changing. My life changed inside and out. Things with my brothers, my family changed. It's a lot of things happened. So, in life, to me, that was all God. It was God interacting. It was God on an intervention. He was just intervening on everything, and He wanted things to change. And I'm not religious, and I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, I'm a born again Christian and I'm living in Christ. Nah, nothing like that. I'm just telling you that I recognize God was in my life, trying to let me know that He's here and it's time to change. Everything else around me was changing, so He was letting me know it's time for a change, and I paid attention to that, and I went all the way in with that energy and went in that direction and left everything else back there. Like that guy right there, Rob D, that's the street dude. That's the drug dealer. I earned that name. Name wasn't given to me. You know what I'm saying? But that guy stayed back there, and I came back to who I am, which is Roberto Paulin. So, you know what I'm saying? Hey, learning how to make money, man, is a beautiful thing. Just don't be a slave to your job, and don't be a slave to the dollar. Because sometimes being a slave to those things, man, you overlook the most important things in your life, which is your family, your loved ones. Don't ever let anything you are doing take more of take more of your time than from the people that you love. Always try to spend most time with the family and you got kids, your girl, your mom, whatever that you care most. Always pay attention to that. And always try to spend as much time as you can with them. It's good to make that dollar, but at the end, you ain't gonna give a damn about that dollar. You ain't gonna care about no car. You ain't gonna care about shit. So I thank my mom and my dad for teaching me how to make an honest buck. Because in the end, when I was done with the street and I was done with the dope game, 20 plus years in it, um, it wasn't the end of the world for me. I still had skills. I can drive a truck. I can weld a little bit. I can cut steel. If I need to, I can work a little bit on old school cars as far as pulling engines and dropping engines and changing starters and radiators and common stuff, easy stuff like that a lot of people still can't do to this day. But I think my mom and my dad for instilling that in me, and that's how I know I was going to be all right, because I always had somewhere to go. You gotta always have an avenue to go down. You always got to have a free, open avenue to go and an option. And as long as you always keep options open and you keep your options, what I mean, available to you when it comes to a hustle or something like that, you're always going to be all right. You're always going to be good. But thank you guys. That was episode 6, and that was, it was always coming from the heart, coming from the soul. Ain't trying to run a little bit too long today, but I'm glad, whoever's watching, whoever's listening, if it's making a difference in your life, I appreciate that. I'm just here telling my story, and there's so many years and so many stories to tell. I might even start dropping 2 videos a day because there's a lot that I need to get out. And yeah, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you guys taking the time. And this has been Raw and Uncut. And we're going to see you on the next one. Thank you. Later.